Thank you very much for your patience. My name is Lewis Black, President and CEO of Almonty, and I've got some things to share with you today. I think before I start, someone said to me, why are you doing IFF? You're a big time guy now. Well, reality is that I'm still first and foremost an investor, a shareholder. And a lot of you that are on this watching today, we've been through quite a journey. I've received, all kinds of notes and letters that, the work that we've done at Almonty has really changed some lives. And you know what? That was why we fought so hard to put the value in it. It wasn't an easy journey, and any journey shouldn't be. And I measure our success by the amount of absolute abuse that we get from competitors or so-called competitors, all these things. The better we do, the more they hate it. So I think as long as I'm, globally disliked by the Tungsten junior guys and the guys who want to take our crown, then I know we're doing a good job. But today, this is really a presentation for all of those retail guys who have been with us and with me for a long time. We never really thought that it would look so pretty, but let me introduce you to Sangdong. So, as you know, if we go back to October 24, the site looked terrible, but it was, a work in progress. And I think we've seen the progression. I know that there have been many times people have alluded that we weren't really building anything. It was all a big, because I kept very quiet. It was because when you build something this impactful, you not only want to do it discreetly out of respect for your community, but also because this is a culmination of 136 years of technology and efficiencies that we've developed as a company under one roof. And of course, that being so close to the biggest producer in the world, only 100 odd miles as the crow flies in China, we wanted to make sure that that technology stayed under the roof while we were building. And as you can see, the progression of what it is to build on the side of a mountain. So this is Sangdong. I'd like to say that it's in our preferred colors, Almonty red. Some people have said that it looks like a James Bond villain lair. They could be right, but as you can see, this is now completed. We are working through the different sections. Everything is undercover. Two reasons. One, because we want to keep how we do things, to ourselves. And secondly, because we work in a climate which is 30 degrees Celsius plus in summer and can drop in wind chill to -20 in winter. It's very important to have a consistent environment, both temperature and humidity. We can see here the ROM pad. The ROM pad at the top is what we use for high grade. What we have now on the pad is what we consider low grade, even though our low grade is higher than everyone else's high grade. But as we commission this plant, we actually use this lower grade area. And then ultimately, we have this as a staging post, but we have another site not that far away where we in fact blend. So what we end up bringing here is the blended material. And the secret of the blend is something which many operators don't understand. You need to prepare a consistent grade to feed the plant to get maximum efficiency. You can see, obviously, as this is a slideshow, that this is that circle I didn't expect to appear. That's obviously telling us that's a road. I'm very glad the people who did this were able to share that with us. And I'm sure everyone watching didn't work that out on their own. This is obviously at ground level. Ultimately, well, we did it. We did it. I'm excited. What can I say? It's very nice. There's a video embedded. That's even better. Don't look at that wheel. That's how we resist degradation of tires on tungsten. That's one of our secrets. I shouldn't have shown you that, but I've shown it now. Now everyone knows. But anyway, as I was saying, this is where we do primary crushing. This then works. You can see this is from our original schematics that we released 2 years ago, showing the design. And now we can see this is the grizzly section. And here we are. There is the ore. This is the first time I've given a presentation with video, but I said to the guys, we've got to show everybody this thing now as it works. And I think we are getting there slowly but surely. This is, of course, the apron feeder. I'm going through the plant in a sort of sequential order. We can't show you everything because a lot of the stuff is a bit proprietary, but it gives you a sense of the scale of what we've done. Remember, this is the most advanced tungsten mine that's been built since, well, in size of scale, since the early 70s in Europe. But it is by far the most advanced, created principles, fully automated in the plant. It is a significant milestone in approach. There's obviously jaw crushers. All of those that are watching are very familiar with this. We affectionately call this the Mutti. There's a reason for that. It's named after the mother of one of our shareholders, who had asked us to name the jaw crusher after his mother. We're not sure why, but of course we like to involve our shareholders in every step of our journey. He's a very long-term and a very good friend. And as we said, this is now moving into building B. We actually move all of the ore through the shuttle conveyor into this plant where we do basically the separation. And we then move into the ball and sag mill area and then into flotation. What's interesting is, and this is obviously building C, we're going to do this. This area, which is with the dewatering cyclone and essentially the components for the separation and classification, is that we have here phase one completed, and this also will accommodate phase two. The only thing in this area that we don't have for phase two is two more additional, one more ball mill, one more sag mill, two more mills. The reason why we didn't put a larger mills in is because tungsten is very brittle. And if you oversize mills, as we've seen in other projects that have been built, not by us, you tend to overgrind and lose a lot of material. So we prefer to work on the slightly elevated energy cost of being more gentle in our mills. In this building, there is already the space prepped to receive an additional two mills for phase two. But as you can see, these mills are now fully installed and prepared. Now into flotation. This was the original plan that we put out more than 3 years ago now, I suppose. And here it is in the flesh. It is a fully automated copper flotation circuit. We've not reinvented the wheel. We call it a copper flotation circuit because the copper industry actually automated these things. And that was adopted by Sandvik at their mine in Austria some years ago and has worked very well. We've merely just adjusted it for tungsten as Sandvik have already done. We know that this mineralization lends itself very well to flotation. It worked for flotation successfully for 40 years. Even though I have a preference for gravity because of the artistry to balance a gravity circuit, flotation is a far more predictable ramp up. The key here, as long as I get the right size fraction into the cells, this thing will pretty much work out the gate. And of course, here are the cleaner tanks, obviously the filters, the thickeners, all these. I've been told we have a PR company that monitors everything. And I've been told all this gossip. Oh, they haven't got this, they haven't got that. Well, yeah, we do. And then, of course, we get into the mysterious water treatment plant that not that long ago, some were saying didn't even exist. And if it did, it was going to freeze in the winter. Here's the water treatment plant. It's a class one plant. We actually produce, incredibly, drinking water. And it's not because we set out to produce such high quality water, but because under Korean law, because we discharge a certain volume, it's not a mining jurisdiction. So we have to apply to an industrial jurisdiction. And that meant we needed a class one plant. It doesn't, the cost of this was more expensive than a class two or class three, but the actual running costs are pretty comparable. But I think it all lends into our ESG. I have no problem providing water for farmers and into, discharge into the river that's actually cleaner than we find it in nature. But we have ultimately three sources of water. Water is certainly a very important component in mining and is often overlooked when assessing projects. Do you have water rights? We do, and we have backup plans if not. But this water treatment plant, as I said, is a class one plant. Here it is in all its glory. It's not just an empty building, and it's already, and of course, filter press, which is actually more for our tailings. Where everything is pumped then to the main thickeners up the hill. And then finally, of course, we have the control rooms. As I said, everything is automated. Everything. And this was done for two reasons. One, because we're finding it more, like all mining companies, more and more difficult to procure people to work in mines. And secondly, this type of technology lends itself very well to automation, as the copper industry have found out, and at Sandvik as well. It's the first one that's been built from standalone in tungsten, and ultimately the first one and only one we believe will ever be built in Korea. But all in all, it is something which we are proud of, that we can monitor this system from anywhere. And that's an important distinction. I think before I get on to the final slide, because we whipped through that, and I will put this on the website anyway. It has been a journey that I wouldn't do again in a hurry, but our passion and commitment and conviction got us there. I'm very glad that I left my feelings in a school playground at 7 years old for some of the dreadful things that some of these so-called competitors have said about us, about me. It's terrible. It doesn't do justice to either our company or to our shareholders. But to those shareholders who stuck with us, you've been enriched probably beyond what you ever expected, and deservedly so. We always had the best project, formerly the world's largest tungsten mine. We built it right. We built it with the right money, with the right partnerships. We've given ourselves every opportunity now to use this asset to launch into downstream in the oxide, to expand out in Montana, to work on all of the other pursuits within tungsten that we currently are now assessing. We will invest into companies we think have viability, because we feel it's important that we are able to share our technology and our experience in successfully delivering projects. The molybdenum is still being drilled. As usual, geologists can't help themselves. We hope to do the updated 43-101 and the US resource equivalent report by the summer. We're happy to confirm that we're seeing the historical data be comfortably confirmed as it was when we did the confirmation drilling in the tungsten. But I think for me to say to all my shareholders, thank you. We did it, and I think that's really my takeaway. Why I wanted to do IFF today, and even though I know our profile is different, and we have this incredible shareholder register now, and we have access to capital, and we are going to now be on an extraordinary, elevated, accelerated growth. The journey to get here wasn't easy. We did so without bad-mouthing anybody. We just went ahead and did our job. And I'm very happy that many of you have been with me for a long time, and very happy that we're going to see you in Korea, two lucky winners. And by the way, it's been hugely oversubscribed. I have a lot more shareholders than I ever anticipated. We're going to see you at the end of June, beginning of July, for the visit. So you can see not only this quite extraordinary build, but also share in the community that we exist in. And that's another very important point. I think community relations is a much overused word. I've seen mines have constant fights with their local mayors because they don't understand that you have to coexist. We want, our shareholders or two lucky shareholders to come see the beautiful area we live in, how we preserve it, and how the community has very much appreciated our approach. But yes, on that, I'm imagining we have quite a lot of questions, Julian. And so I was going to turn it over to see if there were any, if you're still there, unless you've left and gone for tea.
Yes, no, I'm still there, raising my desk so I can stand up again. Well, Lewis, it almost felt like a farewell message, so I hope this is not a
No, no,
farewell
no, I'm not
message
going
that I
anywhere.
have.
It's no, no. Look, a lot of the shareholders have made a great deal of money and life-changing money. And so I know that some of them, of course, have been, have sold or are selling or going to sell because it changes their lives. And that's okay. That's why we invest. We invest not because we want to be, magnanimous or, give some junior miner a new office with, some business cards so who can go get pissed at a conference. We do it so that we can actually create value from our money. And the responsibility of junior miners, which we were once, was to return value to them. I can't ever guilt them into saying, no, you can't leave me. It's not fair. It's ultimately, I fully understand if it's changed your life, I've done my job and thank you for being, with me for the journey. That's what it's not. Listen, who else is crazy enough to do my job? I mean, also, let's be honest. If I wasn't here, who would all these so-called competitors or wannabe competitors abuse? I mean,
I can tell you one thing, Mr. Black. I know a lot of CEOs that would like to be in your shoes now, but would not have been able to wear it in the past few years. It's one thing where you are as of now, and it's something else from where you're coming and the road that you went through. So that being said, as you know, millions of questions.
okay,
Let's
go on,
jump
go right
in.
ahead.
I'm gonna skip the where do you see tungsten's prices, future demand, and so on. Tungsten is in demand, future looks bright. Let's move on from that. One thing I want to talk to you about, you did show ore coming in. So can you talk to us about the ramp up capacity, commercial production? Where does it go in the next few months? And when do you think you're gonna get to 100% of capacity production?
We should expect to see data during next month in June, end of Q2. Fingers crossed, but everything is lining up to deliver that. Because it's flotation, we would expect to meet 100% throughput during Q3, actually probably in July. But because it's very quick, once we get that size fraction perfected, and we're already working on the size fraction with waste and with low grade ore, it'll go through very, very quickly. But yes, we would expect to generate data next month. And then we would expect to see a profound impact on our balance sheet in Q3. But what I'll do is, as data is being produced, I will share it. I noticed that, we've had some people, well, not some people, idiots complain that we don't share, our recovery rates. Well, we don't need to because anybody with a calculator can work it out. And secondly, in my mind, anyone who publishes their recovery rate is not being honest. Because if I get a calculator, I can't get the same number. But no, I think we are now in that ramp up stage, but it's not gravity. You have to remember, no one has commissioned a flotation tungsten project since 1971. This works much differently from the classic, ramp up of a gravity plant. Bearing a case in point, in Portugal, it took us 40 years to perfect gravity. Now we perfected it. No one can do it better than us. No one can produce anything as clean or as homogeneous or as higher recovery rates than us, than that plant. But flotation is a chemical process. It's far more predictable.
Perfect. Obviously, we did talk a lot about the Korean asset. Can you give us a bit of what's happening? Los Santos, Panasqueira, what's happening in Gentung in Montana, and so on. So there's a lot of question of already the next one. The next big one.
Panasqueira is being drilled right now for the mine plan for the expansion of level 4. Los Santos is now being prepped to reopen to pass the tailings. We're not going to make, it's not a huge money earner, but we've been made an offer we can't refuse to reopen Los Santos and to work. To be honest, it's not a hugely capital intensive undertaking, nor is it a labor intensive undertaking. So we are now working on that to reopen. But it's passing all those tailings. In terms of Gentung, because it's Gentung, we are working through with permits for the last permits that we need. I would like to feel that we'll have a small amount of output at the end of this year. We're going to start very slowly there because ultimately we've seen NGO action in the States that target all the guys who are, promising the next big thing. We're trying to approach it in a more, a guy and a shotgun and a pickup truck and a dog in the back approach. And I think that's probably what we've been advised is a smart way to do it. Gentung will be a snowball that will slowly, gradually pick up pace. We are working on other things, as this slide says, future projects dot, as well as looking at investing in some projects that we believe have viability. But all of that will come in good course.
Okay, this is clear. Two important questions following up. So the moly is always a subject that is in interest for a lot of shareholders and so on, and we didn't hear anything about it during this specific presentation. So maybe quick word about it.
Well, because if I talked about it in this presentation, then the tungsten guys will be upset. I'm talking about the moly, and then the moly guys are upset when I talk about the tungsten. So I think the drilling is under, we're doing an enormous amount of drilling there. I mean, the confirmation drilling, I've got to get to, 8 to 12 years of measured and indicated so I can complete my mine plan. I know normally you only need about 4, but I'm trying to replicate what I did in tungsten. And I have to because both Sayar Steel and the Korean government want to see a kind of mirror replication of what we did with the tungsten. If I do less, they're going to say, well, why are you treating the moly? There's lots of politics and everything. The drilling is underway. Our QP is already working with the data that's being generated. We hope to do an update to that 43101, and as I said, the US instrument by the summer. Then the mine plan can be completed, and then we can announce how it's actually going to be built and constructed. We have obviously access to it. It's fully permitted. We don't need one more permit to mine that site. We have a location for the plant, but ultimately what I want this to be is a more Korean approach, because obviously it's a life of mine, offtake with Sayar Steel. It's important that maybe we look at more Korean support for the opening of it. I only know about tungsten and moly. Outside of that, I know nothing. But I certainly don't want to take on all the drama and aggravation of opening the moly with my own money if I don't have to. So let's see. Let me get the mine plan. Mining is all about hurdles. Junior miners are all about no hurdles. That's just what we're going to win. But this is my money. So I like to approach each problem as I get to it. Then I move on to the next problem. And that's how I'm looking at the moly. It is underway. Drilling, we have, I think, 4 rigs or 5 rigs there. I mean, we're drilling. It's not impacting our mining undergrounds in the tungsten, but data is coming up now. Testing work is done. Each test, you're doing 100 plus samples a day. This is a big campaign. So bear with me. We hope to do the revised resource report by summer.
Okay, great. Let's tackle something that I have a few questions about. So basically, the market being what it is, there's a lot of shareholders, or what I presume being shareholders, discussing of possible acquisition by larger mining companies, divestment of anchor investments, a lot of movement in the shareholding structure, basically, that being divestment from strategic investors that want to profit out, being replaced by other one, or either maybe a possible sell and so on. From the fact that we know the shareholders, I think that you management, family, strategic shareholder control a big piece of the company. But can you tell us a little more of the next few years in terms of shareholding structure and how do you see that evolving and moving?
Well, I mean, I think, it's a great question because we've seen our retail base decline since we did our IPO on the NASDAQ last year. We were around 80% retail then. I think now we're closer to 40% or just under 40%. And we would imagine that will go down to around about 30%, 28% in that as institutions come in. And I understand that because I bought stock in Almonty, 2 months ago, and I paid, I think, $1.5 million for like 100,000 shares. And I thought to myself, bloody hell, $1.5 million 2 years ago, 3 years ago got me a lot more stock. And so it's become, far more expensive for many retail guys. So I get it. It's a change of profile of financial profile. We are seeing, I've been very careful to try and only bring in quality institutions. And if you look at our shareholder register, there's some really, top-notch quality in there that demands transparency, that demands due diligence. We didn't go into the NASDAQ through a SPAC or through a reverse merger. We went in loud and proud. And my argument to my Canadian directors who said, "Oh, we want to do this. It's America." I said, "You've got to understand, if you're going to actually create a company, you've got to stand on the pedestal and say, take shots at me. And if I've done things right, I'll be rewarded. And if I haven't, I won't be." And I think this is what we've seen in Almonty. The retail base is naturally migrating out because they've had a win that they've, maybe never seen before, or one of their best wins, top 10, top five. And institutions come in, and so there's going to be this thing. The most important element is that we generate liquidity. Our volume a day is such that people can move in and out of the stock. Most juniors, it's like a lifetime commitment. You buy the stock and your grandkids get the stock because you can't sell it. This we can move in and out of. We are going to be active in using our profile and our capital base to grow this company, whether we buy revenue elsewhere in our sector or whether we accelerate our investment programs. So we're not going to just rest on our laurels. We built, book career, that's it. Oh, no, no. We've been given an opportunity of a lifetime to double up again and again. This is the beginning of the journey. We've now got to a critical mass when nothing's a zero game. It's no longer a zero sum. It's not make or break now. Now it's build. And that's important. Some retail guys will stay in the party and some will say, you know what? I love Lewis, but I've always wanted to build that swimming pool. And so that's okay.
Well, I can tell you that this swimming pool is going to be in-ground, heated, summer, winter, no matter if it's in Antarctica or not, because yes, the return, depending when you came in, are absolutely insane. Not only that, we're out of time, Lewis.
Thanks,
There would be
Julian.
so much more to discuss about. And I think I'll take you on your offer. Next time, you book one slot for Moly and one slot for antimony, and everyone's happy.
Thanks, Julian. Take care. Good to see everyone.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.